we have a very good understanding of what happens in our markets. The outcome counts. Often enough they take a decision maybe I would not take, but it turns out to be right. So, hello Jörg, thank you for your time and that to take time for this interview.
Pleasure.
We know each other now for 13 years, I don't know if you know that.
A long time.
Now, after 13 years, it's the first situation where I have the reins in my hand. Are you afraid what I ask you?
Yes.
Not really, I do not believe you. Okay, just joking. Okay, before we start with more details, maybe you can just introduce yourself to the audience so they know who you are.
Yeah, well, my name is Jörg. I'm the founder of ForgeJet. I'm almost 50 years old, not quite yet. I'm married. I have a young son who's lots of fun. Well, and up to this date, I'm running the company, managing it.
Give me a little bit more background, maybe where you come from. So I expect many new founders, startup will maybe see the interview and want to understand, what's the basement of.
Well, I mean, I'm maybe not the typical prototype of an entrepreneur in the equipment industry because I'm a college dropout. I started to study law and economics, and then I kind of ventured into an internship at an automotive company. And I never returned to university, and from there, life had some interesting opportunities, and I ended up founding ForgeJet.
Now you mentioned that in just 2 sentences. What was the reason for founding ForgeJet? So you worked in the automotive industry, I understood.
Yes, it was an internship that turned into a job for about 2 years, and after that I started to freelance for my father, who is a real technologist by heart. He developed laser process technology already from the mid-90s. And he had a small team, a small engineering company working on some of the very early work in laser surface processing. At the time I was working for him first in marketing, then in sales, and then kind of in general management. And at some point in time it became obvious that there is good technology, but we have to create a product-based business model to turn this really into a manufacturer of machine solutions, and this is the starting point of ForgeJet. So lots of coincidences. Huh?
Yeah, so you worked in a company for your father. Why not building up this company? What was the reason to go the step, make your own company?
Well, sometimes things just evolve over time. It became obvious there's good opportunities for the technology, but a different setup was required, a different scale was required. And so one thing led to another, and it was not a very, I would say, ruptured change. It was more like a transition, an evolution, I would say. And at some point it was logic to take that step. Yeah. It wasn't a big bang, it just happened over a period of a couple of months. Yeah.
How was the history since you started the foundation? Maybe that's a good point to start. So is it like many machine building companies grow up? It was not in a garage, I understood. You started together with your father, something like that. Was your first idea, you directly know where you want to go? You want to be a machine builder? You want to get much engineers in the company, build with lasers?
Well, I mean, at the starting point there was I would say, some products in a prototype stage. There was an understanding of what problems we could solve for certain customers, and there was a certain core technology available, which of course still needed to be matured and to be developed. And then it was very opportunistic. You start with what you have. I mean, if you found a company, you need to sell, huh? And you sell what you have ready or almost ready, and this is the way to get started. And then everything else comes more or less in the early times with more or less to some extent by strategy, and to some extent by coincidence, and by a stroke of some fortune as well.
How have been the first 2 or 3 years maybe? Was it you could build up very good on your existing business with your father, or?
Well, this was the core. Yeah, there was a team of 6-7 people. That was a core team, which was the starting point, and from there we added resources, we added capability. We grew, let's say, the offering. We added a sales network step by step, and a lot of that was by design, but a lot of that was also thanks to some fortunate events and coincidences, which I think is always part of a company's history.
Fortune is a point, definitely. I can understand that. You as the owner, you are confronted every day with changes in the market, with situation chances. I expect that's the most important work you have to do for the company, right? To analyze situations and then make the correct decision, right?
Ideally, yes. I mean, that's certainly an important part of it, to kind of anticipate what is happening within certain markets, within certain, let's say, technologies as well, to make the right calls with product, to maybe push which product line to drop, which markets to access. Mm-hmm. That's certainly part of it, which is more on a strategic level, but of course there's still operational decisions to take, very simple things. How many people to hire, or at what price to sell something, stuff like that is still a major part as well.
Yeah. There was one important decision in the history where you decided to build, to some kind of split the company into business units, which are in very different markets. How came it to that situation that you do not focus on one thing, you decided to go the way like that?
I mean, by heart, we are a technology company. Our common denominator is laser technology, and we have a very good understanding of laser-based surface processing. This is the core technology, but that's not a product. And to turn that into a product, you have to build specific solutions for certain markets, because you want to sell a machine which contains your solution. And we started in the tire manufacturing space, and then we kind of stumbled into the solar industry. And it became clear that even though the core technologies have similarities, the culture of the customer markets, the requirements, the working environment is different. And ultimately we decided, in order to remain close to the customers, we want to have a dedicated sales force, a dedicated project management, and a dedicated engineering capabilities for these markets. And this led to the split in business units, and I still think that's been serving us very well, because we have a very good understanding, at least I think, of what happens in our markets. Yeah. And we can speak the language of our customers, and this gives us a good opportunity to remain on top in our niches.
Yeah. When you have such big decisions in front of you, how do you handle the feelings while these situations? Yeah, a little bit of yourself. It's definitely every time a risky situation. It's a little bit cloudy. You do not know, will the decision be correct? Are you a person lying in the bed until 4 a.m. you cannot sleep, or how do you release the pressure? How do you handle this stress?
Well, I mean, after all, decision making, I think, is a requirement to any manager. If you don't want to take decisions, don't be a manager. Yeah. That's I think one important one. No, typically I think it's a question of mixing data and information with gut feeling. If your feeling is not right, don't do it. And this is something you certainly have to stick to. In general, in looking back in the track record of our company, I'd say we took more good decisions than bad ones. Mm-hmm. So the statistics are pretty good. So I'm not too worried about taking a wrong turn. And keep in mind, most decisions in life and in business life have two sides. There's always some yin and yang. It's not always black or white. Yeah. There's an upside even when there's a downside. And on top of that, it's rarely that you have decisions that are boom or bust, that have a consequence that you cannot revert.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not as bad as it might sound like.
Yeah. Okay. You already led me to my next topic. I was thinking about to talk with you about management, recruiting. The company is strongly growing. I expect in the last years you are less involved in much details. So that means you need to spend time with recruiting, think about management positions, which position. How do you handle this? I think you are strongly involved. What are your requirements for managers? You already mentioned one.
I mean, there are several things. First of all, you have to get the right organization, and then you need the right people. And of course, in a startup and in a young company, you tend to mix these things. You don't create a company on a green field and say, okay, I need this and that, and then I hire the
like
people.
idealistic.
That's never the case. Companies are organisms. They evolve, they grow over time. But I think it's key, obviously, to find the right people, and it's true both for the experts as well as for the management team. And of course, over the times you learn, and you also learn by mistakes. I mean, like in every organization, in some cases we turned great experts into weak managers. We have also seen that as some experts are great managers, and that's something you learn over time and something by trying. But it's I think as important to define clear roles and have an understanding of what the organization has to provide and how it has to evolve as it is to choose the right people. But it's certainly, that's the number one, I think, success driver, finding the right people.
So there's no big strategy behind it. That's what I was thinking about. If you have, I will ask this and this and this question while talking
hiring?
to, while hiring. So you have 30 to 60 minutes maybe to find out if the person fits to you.
Yes, it's true. And sometimes you fall in love after 2 minutes and you know you will hire them anyway. But of course, over time, I became less involved in individual hiring decisions.
Okay.
And by now, I think we have a very structured and in some ways even better way of finding talent, because it's more eyes looking at somebody who applies for a job. It's a more structured decision making than we maybe used to do in the early days. So I think the mix of having a gut feeling but still a structured a process of getting to know somebody is important.
Yeah. Okay. Still about hiring, you already mentioned each manager need to make decisions and maybe like to think about decisions. Do you have also such a point which is a no-go for a manager maybe? Where you say, oh, that's...
What I don't like about managers?
Yeah.
Vanity. People are super worried about titles and statue symbols.
Okay. Yeah.
That I don't really like, because usually the real leaders have the people, and a boss has a title. That's an old saying.
Oh yeah. I can see what you're saying in the crew. Management team are also very casual, more casual than we now.
Yeah, that's certainly something. And I think the lack of, or let me put it different, nobody likes to work for micromanagers. Micromanagement is a source of demotivation, and if you overdo it, there's two downsides. The people are no longer self-driven, they don't take responsibility, and at the same time, the manager who's working in a micromanagement style, he's or she is killing herself, because you have so much workload, you have so many details to worry about if you're a micromanager. So that's certainly not a good trait. Precision is important, but precision is a different thing than micromanagement.
Yeah. Let me combine the idea of management and decision. So you're working much with the managers in the company, and also they make a lot of decisions every week. How do you handle if you are not fine with their decision, when you think the other way would be better?
Well, number one, the outcome counts. Often enough they take a decision maybe I would not take, but it turns out to be right, so I definitely should not complain. And even if it does not turn out the way we were all hoping for, at the end of the day, a company of that size or of that complexity works by delegating responsibility. Yeah. And with that, you have to trust the people that work for you, and you also have to accept that something goes wrong. I mean, a lot of my decisions turned out to be wrong, and here I'm still sitting here today, so this is part of life and of business life.
What are still your responsibilities here? What are you doing? I expect you do not have a regular, every day is like the same, every week is the same.
Well, I mean, we have a complete management team. I have a co-CEO since over 10 years who is taking care of a lot of the, let's say, more operational issues. Then we have a real finance guy. Plus, we have a complete business unit management that takes care of technology, projects, and so on. The things I'm still responsible for, including the direct reports, include things like, besides managing the top management, to some extent, business development, new business, marketing, communications. I do strategy. I work with investors, stuff like that. But I think it's fair to say if I would not come in the company for a couple of months, nobody would notice immediately. We would still ship product. We would still sell product. Yeah. Probably after a year or so, if I don't replace myself, we would start seeing some issues. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm not so much involved in daily operations.
Yeah, I see. So, yeah, you do where you are needed. Are there some points you can point out? Maybe what are topics that you like to work with? What part of your work don't you like so much because it's just paperwork maybe or something?
Yeah, I do not like paperwork. I don't like tax
no
returns.
One do it either.
I don't like travel trip reports. I don't like filling out forms. I do like the new stuff, going through new doors, new products, new markets, new people. Of course, that's what's driving me.
You are now leading a machine building company, and if I look back the last 13 years, I never have seen you with a screwdriver in your hand. Is that true? Because I have to say, from my point of view, you are really fast in understanding technical correlations as something, but I do not see so much technical background. That's why I'm wondering.
So number one, the fact that I don't have a screwdriver has a lot to do with the fact that we really are concerned about our quality. and I would not add to that. I'm not a technician by trade. I think I have a certain understanding of what happens in our customer markets. I understand the applications. I for sure understand how our machines function. Let's say the boundaries of a process, of a technology. I understand.
Oh yeah, so also the laser part of each machine. You have a rough
basic understanding. Not by far enough to work seriously on an engineering task. But I think what's important, I think I have enough understanding to call out if somebody tells me BS.
Yeah, okay. Let me turn a little bit the view on your person, because I see you now, the company is growing, and now for nearly 18 years? It's 2006, right? 16 years.
16 years.
Yeah.
16 years.
So about that time, yeah, everyone here in the team is feeling good. How is your feeling over these years? Are your feelings decreasing? Are you still proud every year what you and your company could do, could evolve to?
Pride is not a very typical feeling, I would say, because I mean, of course, some things go well, and I'm happy if we have a success. But at the same time, there's always something that does not go right. So you're constantly kind of trying to improve things, and I mean, we aren't finished. There's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But sure, there's a certain satisfaction, and we did great things as a company. We achieved really great things, and that's something I think we can all be proud of. This is not an individual achievement.
So Jörg, you from your position, you maybe have the best overview about the company, the longest overview, the more detailed overview. There are also other companies in the world which are producing similar machines for different markets. What makes your company, your products, and you unique besides the others?
Well, I think we are really, really technology heavy. We have a very, very good understanding of mastering the art of laser surface processing. A very strong R&D team, so we really have a good understanding of laser material interaction, with what laser to manipulate, what surface. That's key to make that work. I think our abilities in beam shaping, beam manipulation, beam delivery are really key. And we've been doing some great things, scaling up a laser process that maybe works nice in a lab to really an industrial process. Way faster, more precise, robust, reliable, and to do that we have I think a real strength also in developing software, including the automation, the machine vision, the metrology, and for that we really have a top-notch team, a large team, and a very strong framework that we use to really develop software agile, very modular, and I think that's really an edge. I think this is market leading, the way we develop such solutions. And as a company, I would probably say we had a pretty good track record identifying market needs, customer requirements, and answering them with a product that we can then also scale, mature, and sell to others. So I think we had a pretty good experience finding products that allow us to scale as a company.
I remember 10 years ago maybe when we talked about to work together, 13 years ago, you introduced the company as a leading company regarding technology. Yeah, you told me my target is to be the first with a solution. And as soon as the others build the first, I build the second revision of my solution. Is it still that?
Yes and no. It's an interesting question. We have a strategy per niche, per market, per vertical, and per product line.
Okay, so different strategies.
And some markets we are still by far technology leading. We make these markets, we define the standard. It's almost impossible for others to enter those markets. Mm-hmm. And in others there is more competition, and there we apply different business strategies. And you need to be aware of where you are in each market, and then you pick the right strategy. It's no longer one strategy for all the product lines. It depends a bit on the market. And so on.
Where do you see Forjet in 10 years, in 20 years?
That's one of these questions like in a job interview. How do you see yourself in a couple of years?
Yes.
It's a bit hard to answer. I think if you look back in the last decade, we probably more than tripled. I guess that growth rate is something we can sustain simply because the solutions we offer address some of the big topics of our time. More or less all of our products have direct impact on CO2 emissions, energy consumption. They eliminate the use of chemicals. They help to reduce the fuel burn of aircraft. We enable solar cells. So there's so much we help to make possible, and I think we will be needed. Our solutions will be needed. So there's room for growth for our company, which also gives us a pretty good purpose going forward. So yes, there will be growth. Probably the company is going to double, triple in size, and will evolve over time.
What will happen if the company again doubles or triples? It's a big step for a company. Do you already think about maybe problems that will come up or something? Yeah, we are strongly moving from a family company to a corporate anonymity. Yeah, that's maybe a point which is important.
Well, there's several sides to this. For one, family sounds great, but not all families are great. If families are, I think, organizations in which everybody should have more or less the same say. Mm-hmm. A company is the opposite. A company is an organization where you have to take decisions. And if you try to merge these things, you tend to have a culture of unclear responsibilities. After all, we want to organize a large group of people, and for that you need a certain commitment, certain boundaries, certain principles, methods, processes. So having a larger organization is also an opportunity to have clearer understanding of everybody's rules. Mm-hmm. And you get chances to have more and more expertise in certain areas. If you are a startup, you cannot afford to have somebody only thinking about development of your employees. Or having somebody who does only marketing, or a team that does marketing.
So it's a necessary step to grow.
It is a necessary step. And of course the quality of your output becomes better and better. Of course, at the same time, you lose a few things. You lose the fact that you know everyone. by first name, last name, number of kids. I no longer do that. That's to some extent, of course, sad. You also lose some capabilities as a company because some of the things small companies can do really fast, really lean.
Yeah.
We can no longer do this. That's also part of the truth. But overall, I think growth is an opportunity for everybody and every member of a company and every team member. So it's not a bad thing.
No. Okay. Yeah, thank you for that view. Thank you for all the details and insights that you gave me. Maybe just an open question for the last question. Yeah, many people will watch the interview. Maybe they are thinking since years to start up, to found a known company. Is there any advice you can give them? Anything you want to say to them?
Oh, that's a very, very wide question.
Yeah, it's open.
There's a lot to say about that. I think first of all, you have to be very clear to yourself. Are you ready to do this? Are you really willing? Because there's some sacrifice. It's a lot of work and some things you cannot do. It's responsibility for people, the money of others people you spend probably. Yeah. But if you feel it inside, you will do it anyway. No matter what anybody tells you. If you're really an entrepreneur, you're going to go ahead and jump into that. And once you do, start selling immediately. You need customers. Don't worry too long about product, technology, all that stuff. You need customers. This is the way to learn and grow an organization.
Thank you. Before we're ending up, I do one thing I already did in the past interviews. I already had some today. Your employees, I ask for 5 buzzwords regarding the topic Forget. I summarized all the answers and want to confront you with the main topics, and maybe you can just shoot out what thoughts do you get in mind when I confront you.
Okay.
So the first word is innovation.
Core DNA of Forget, very much. Yeah.
Okay. Friendly chaos.
Yes, and sometimes unfriendly as well.
Okay, that's good. And the last one, team spirit.
For sure. For sure.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure. It was fun. Thank you.